Yeah, no worries.
I know from the
Good.
message.
How are
Thanks
you?
again.
Okay, sounds good to me.
We should probably just make a, let's make a new folder for
Or they can
legal
talk during
notices.
that. If you don't mind mentioning it.
It's kind of high, so
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
I was kind of in for like 6 to 4, although I saw the
Yeah,
commercial.
should lower it.
They look really good.
What?
I saw a commercial for them, they look really good. We're set for the proclamation, for the, physical therapist.
Are we gonna have a copy of it?
Hey Steve, I'm gonna do a follow-up
Do we
email
have a copy
tomorrow.
of it?
Yeah, to our little group. I know. I actually thought about that on the way in. I'm like, how many days has it been?
Are we still doing this project right now?
At this point, I'm waiting to see where the other trying to finish up the grant. And then
Is that this thing?
Is this what you?
Yes, yes, these are,
No, I'm
this
good.
is the grant.
I think.
Okay, and she's finishing all that.
It's warm out. I got to go for a run today.
Warm in here.
Playing at 9:10, so we got to trick-or-treating along. But lots of my friends' daughters are
That's your first. That's your first
She got a
daughter.
9:10, probably be done a lot sooner than that.
awesome, and she's only 5'1". Right,
In like 22 minutes, she's married.
yeah, probably
You know,
not.
this is a plan.
It's
Actually,
really
now
cool.
they
The rest of the family has all the twins are like,
like 6 of them, we're gonna put them
John,
in here.
yes, my height,
do
he's
you
like
know when these
5'4".
were
They're all real short, and he
I was
stands
trying
behind
to
him,
get
and he's
these
6'7".
emails, because that's part of the FOIA.
So it's quite
We have
funny.
FOIA from,
Discussion. Have to interject.
So, very exciting, very exciting times.
It would have been the week before,
I looked,
Huh?
some of these I couldn't find it.
okay. So we're talking about the last time they were passed? Or the time before? Because 7 of them got passed altogether because we made that decision. So we're talking about it in the years before. Because that's how we made that decision.
Both, yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
but now these two, these
Make a
three
trade.
here,
We want your
different. They were passed, this is one
He's
of
the
the
clerk,
passed.
he can't, yeah, he can't be traded for. No,
Well, I
and we also,
Billy,
Billy,
all the candidates.
Love on the rocks there, like what's going
at
on?
last week's meeting, I forgot to email you about this. There was some discussion about two building department vehicles.
Yes. Yeah, I usually use the,
Is there an SUV, like an Explorer, is that the one that? Okay, but you usually get in that and drive that around when you're going out.
personal vehicle pretty much. I charge it goes.
This weekend here.
But do you use this one now? I mean, you can use it. Okay, what if, isn't there a Ford Focus?
The Ford Focus is good.
Really keep it
Yeah, but someone said, well, how come Fred doesn't use it? I don't like- No, even if he was skinny, he's too tall. Yeah, right, okay. I have a stomachache. Okay. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, I will call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Village of Midlothian, February 14th, 2018, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cavey,
Here.
Trustee Crowley,
Here.
Trustee Gillis,
Here.
Trustee Ivan,
Here.
Trustee Killedy, Trustee Kreis,
Here.
Mayor LaRue,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like tonight's moment of silence to go out to Chicago Police Department Commander Paul Bauer, who tragically lost his life yesterday in the line of duty. So, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any members of any village commissions or committees here tonight?
Dave Conley, Veterans Committee, Fairview Legion.
Dave?
Jean Bartecki, Beautification Committee, CPC, and Safety Committee. And Friends of the Library.
Is there any members of any village or local organizations here tonight?
Rita Sarni, Friends of the Library.
Thank you all for coming tonight. At this time, I will open the floor to public comment. If you would like to be made a matter of public record, please stand and state your name, and we do have the microphones up front here that are on, unless you can speak loud and clear so that our camera can pick up the audio. Sure.
Alan Krugowski, live on Kenton. Here tonight to kind of give a little bit of an update and then ask some questions about the properties on Knox that we're having a question about regarding zoning. Karen's not here tonight, but her property now is in its second contract. The first contract fell apart because of the zoning issue and the buyer couldn't get financing. She dropped the price, got a second contract. That buyer now has lost the funding with the first lender because of the zoning problem. They're trying to go through another lender. The net issue right now is she's about $50,000 underpriced from where she was initially. And I just feel everybody kind of needs to know that because this situation is severely hurting the values. And I don't know where we are regarding getting it addressed. I guess my question to the village attorney would be, at what point is there liability with the village for changing the zoning and affecting these values on these properties? I mean, that's something that I think needs to be looked at. Another quick question. I've been paying real estate taxes on a 2-unit. That's not a 2-unit, according to you. Big difference in money. So I was wondering who I get an answer from. I've been communicating with Mr. DeSimone, kind of giving me where it's at, but I'd like to know if there's somebody working on it, pushing it, and where do I have to get in line to help? So that way Karen can get her property sold and not lose tens of thousands, and the rest of us can do the same. So, answer to anybody?
As the last conversation we had in my office, what has happened is we are drafting, the village is going to act as a petitioner to the zoning board of appeals. The letters have been drafted. They will go out probably within the next 2 business days. And then what we're going to do is we'll assemble with the zoning plan. And as I stated, the village is actually acting as a petitioner on this. And
Anything we need to do?
no, sir, not that I'm aware of. And I have all the information possible.
Because I think the next deal's gonna fall apart too. Because nobody's gonna fund the property with it not being able to be rebuilt. So,
Being rebuilt as a 2-unit.
right.
That is correct. That's right.
So, and as she's dropped the price to try to compensate for it, it's not gonna work. So, I've been communicating with all of them, and she's the only one that's really under the gun because she's trying to sell.
But you bring up the issue of the taxes too, that needs to be addressed as well. So-
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a big difference between getting taxed as a 2-unit or a
Sure.
single family
Right.
for a bunch of years, and depending on which way it goes, we end up in a pretty big lose line. So, should I just keep
Yes.
communicating? Okay. So,
And then if the Superintendent DeSimone, he'll communicate with the village attorney if anything needs to be done in that area.
Yes, sir.
Dave?
My name is Dave Conley, the chairman of the Veterans Committee. I just want to let everybody know, I know there's not a lot of people here tonight, but I believe it's March 14th for Mr. Bell.
Yep, they know about it for the
Oh, you
presentation.
know about it already? Okay, thank you, that's all. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that he was going to be getting his medals
That is if he's well enough that evening,
Yeah.
if he's well enough.
Rita?
Rita Sarnia, 148 Holdinger, and I just say, I think our Public Works Department needs a big round of applause. They did a wonderful job during this late storm.
Carol?
My name is Carol. My address is 14433 Custer Avenue in Midlothian, Illinois. Mayor, do you have any answers for me?
I just spoke to Engineer Nagel before the meeting. We have not come up with any solutions as of yet, but we will. We're still working on it, along with Superintendent DeSimone and actually Superintendent Sperry. We've all talked about it, so not as tonight. We do not.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyone else? I will close the floor to public comment and move on to tonight's consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, we have item number 1, approval of ordinance 1974 for ambulance service and fees, Title III, Chapter 2, Section 27. Number 2, approval for fire department administrative assistant to attend Illinois Fire Service Administrative Professionals Annual Conference on April 18th through the 20th, 2018. Number 3, approval to allow Aunt Martha's to host a community garden on Village Green. Excuse me. Number 4, approval to purchase 3 police patrol cars not to exceed $42,000 and permission to sell 1 unmarked squad car. Funds will be used from the seized funds account and paid by a manual check. Number 5, approval for an offer of employment, excuse me, for 2 EMA, Emergency Management Agency officers. Number 6, approval for an offer of employment for 1 part-time police officer. Number 7, approval to send Detective Hazelton to a sex crimes investigation class, 40 hours. The cost of the course is $695. Number 8, approval to send Deputy Chief Rafferty to Northwestern Executive Management course, 80 hours. The cost of the course is $2,300. Number 9, approval of the Trujillo litigation settlement. Number 10, approval of the board meeting minutes from January 10th, 2018. Number 11, approval of committee meeting minutes from January 17th, 2018. Approval, and number 12, approval of the list of bills. Is there any items on the consent agenda that any trustee would like to remove?
Yes, I'd like to remove items 5, 7, and 8, please.
And number 9.
5, 7, 8, and 9. Is there any other trustees that would like something removed? So, I am looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, without item 5, approval for an offer of employment of 2 EMA officers. Number 7, approval to send Detective Hazelton to a sex crimes investigation class. Number 8, approval to send Deputy Chief Rafferty to Northwestern Executive Management course. And number 9, approval of the Trujillo litigation settlement.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Trustee Cagney?
Aye.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Kilby?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Would we like to handle the items that were removed now?
Sure.
Okay, let's start with number 5, approval for an offer of employment to 2 emergency management officers. Trustee Gillis, do you have?
Yes, I just have a question, and I didn't have time to email or correspond with Trustee Crowley. I am just concerned about offering employment to 2 EMA officers without having a director of the EMA at this time.
Yes, we do not have a director of EMA at this time, but I think we are looking at possibly one of the people that we're offering it to that will act in that role. And then they will be overseen by the patrol division until there isn't a director appointed.
The way I understand it is that these 2 individuals would be brought on and trained, and then one would be made the director, and then at that point, they would be on the street, so to speak. There would be no action on their part until they're fully trained and a director is appointed.
Okay.
And just to be clear, when I communicated to Maria, I wasn't clear. I wanted those items put on under my business, not on the consent agenda. And by the time she had sent it, no, that's okay. When I just said, could you add this to my agenda, I meant, but she didn't know. So I actually meant it to be under my business and not on the consent agenda.
For the benefit. The other reason why I asked to have it pulled off would be that we also did not discuss this at committee or the
Right.
special meeting. So I would ask that we table it until we do have further discussion, because I think it is important that we find out who these two individuals are, other than just say, yeah, we're hiring, making offer to two employees that I don't even know who they are.
Well,
Okay.
I don't believe we can discuss that in open meetings, who the individuals are.
I can give you I can send you their
But
information.
we do through communications,
That's true. So,
which we haven't had.
So Trustee Gillis is asking to table the question, motion to table the question, to temporarily postpone the question of approval of an offer of employment, and that requires a vote.
Yes.
For the benefit of the people in the room and for the meeting minutes, can we tell us what EMA means?
Emergency Management Agency.
Agency, thank you. And then when we hire a director of EMA, will that person be like a police officer?
No,
No?
none of them will be police officers.
Okay.
They do, this is when we discuss, they do things like parades and
Okay.
down wires, so we
Okay.
don't have to use police officers for that.
Gotcha.
And the only person who is being paid is the director. The EMAs are volunteers,
Okay.
right?
No, they're not. We voted on that a couple months
Okay.
ago. It was,
They will be paid.
$12 an hour, I think is what we had. $10, sorry.
So the motion on the table is to postpone the question. Have a second? We need a second? We need a second on this.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee Kaving,
Aye.
trustee Crowley,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Kilby,
Aye.
motion carries.
Can we add this to next week's agenda
Yes.
to discuss?
Okay, trustee Gillis, you removed number 7, approval to send Detective Housden to a sex crime investigation class.
Yes, and we can sort of piggyback 7 and 8 together. This also goes with the formality that I believe we did not discuss these at committee or special meeting. And again, I am one for advancing education, and I think I've proven that through my votes and pushed through that. But I also would like to table these two, because I would like to discuss these, make sure funding is there, because again, we didn't discuss these at committee or special meeting. And I think it is important that we do follow the format that we put out to keep it status quo.
I did want to put those under my agenda because I sent out the email last week or Sunday about all the information. So I wanted to try and discuss it this evening before I asked for a motion to approve it.
But I believe our policy, or not policy, our format that we follow is that we, especially when we're spending money, is that we discuss it at committee and then approve it at board. Am I right?
Is this time sensitive, trustee Crowley?
Well, the one class I know starts in the beginning of March, so that's why I was trying to get them on the agenda for this, for discussion tonight.
Well, these are budgeted items, so.
Yes.
I mean, do we approve all training classes in the past? Have we done that?
Anything over $500 has to come to the board for approval.
Under a budgeted item?
Well, the board has to approve the bill, yes, but the department head because the board approved the budget, the department head has the discretion to spend the money in his budget that covers training or whatever else. That invoice would then come to the board, signed from the trustee to the board for approval. So there's two different things. It's budgeted items are already approved by the board to be spent, such as training, and then the board would actually formally have to approve the invoice for that training once it came
Can
in.
I ask what class is of a timely manner?
The sex crimes class starts March 5th.
Then I will drop my motion to table that. But I will not drop my motion to table number 8.
All right, so we'll bring up the approval to send Detective Houston to sign sex crimes investigation class under trustee Crowley's business to get approval, if so pleases the board, but you're still on the table for a motion to postpone number 8, approval to send Deputy Chief Rafferty to Northwestern Executive Management course. Is there a second?
Second.
I was just going to ask, Dan, when does that other class start? Do you remember? Okay. I have no problem just holding it over till next week then, as long as we have enough time. That's fine.
All right, was there a second?
What
I'll
was the
second.
motion?
Motion to postpone the question of approval to send Deputy Chief Rafferty to Northwestern Executive Management course. Trustee Gillis made the motion and
Trustee Cavney seconded.
seconded it. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Cavney?
Aye.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Nay.
Trustee Killy?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And then Trustee Crowley, you removed number 9, approval of the Trujillo litigation settlement.
Yes, Attorney Valdez asked me to remove that as there has been some changes that are not substantive, but we're not ready to move forward with it this evening.
So she's making a motion to postpone that question for indefinite period, is that how you say it?
To the next board.
To the next board meeting. So Trustee Crowley is making a motion to postpone the question of approval of the Trujillo litigation settlement to the next board meeting.
And actually, for saving time, so the board doesn't have to have a substantive discussion with regard to this at the next board meeting, the opposing counsel reviewed the settlement agreement and had some suggestions that are not substantive. I want to emphasize, it was clarification as to what is actually going to happen, and none of it changes the substance of the settlement. So that's why the board also is implementing a policy of making sure that all agreements are signed by the other party first. I concur with that process and protocol, and we could have approved it tonight, but that would have required us signing first, and we don't want to do that, so that's the reason why we postponed it.
I'll second.
All right, so Trustee Crowley, motion, Trustee Gillis seconded. Roll call.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Cavney?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Killy?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Right, I believe that completes our consent agenda. Moving on to trustee business, Trustee Kreis.
I have a couple updates this evening on the community development, economic development front. I talked to Attorney David Sasson earlier this week. He called me, and his client is still in the process of obtaining the vacant Honda building, Superintendent DeSimone. They are still, as such with the abandonment process, they have one more party that they need to serve, which has delayed the process. But he's confident that they will acquire the judicial deed to that property. He shared some of the thoughts for the redevelopment, and I will kind of expand on that next week at the committee meeting. So, again, that's still, I know everybody's impatient, but we know through the abandonment process where the land bank is picking up these properties, they've got to do all of these notifications, whoever shows up on a title report, and it's a very tedious and lengthy, unfortunately, process. But that project is still alive. This morning, I spoke to Dennis Suglich from Cousins. He reached out to me. He has a family illness that he's been dealing with, very unexpected. So it's kind of delayed him working on the redevelopment agreement. However, his attorney is reviewing it. He said there will be some, what he called minor changes. He is hoping to have it to me so that we can have it on the agenda for next Wednesday and move forward on that. So, still very, very excited about expanding his footprint in Midlothian. And I did send an email, copied Trustee Killey on that, and let Russ Ryden from the South Suburban Land Bank and Development Authority and Attorney Brent Denson, who's the land bank attorney, know. So that process is still underway, but the land bank does own that property that he's going to expand. So stay tuned. It's taken a long way to get to this point on some of these vacancies, but it's, the things are finally starting to slowly move along.
Karen, is there an estimated closing date on that yet?
They own the property.
The land bank does? Oh, okay, I didn't know.
And the way that we foresee this, they're going to have the land bank will have a deed restriction agreement tied to our redevelopment agreement, and both of those will be executed at the time of closing.
When the land bank sells it to
Right,
cousins.
when Mr. Suglich takes ownership of the property. So that's why I'm keeping Russ Ryden, who's the executive director of the land bank, and Brent Denson in the loop. And I also had a conversation with another prospective, a business owner who's looking at the property that the land bank should have the judicial deed for on March, I believe it's March 6th or March 8th, Superintendent DeSimone, that you need to be back in court for the property in the old penny pinchers.
We haven't gotten a definitive date yet on the court appearance.
I think it's the 6th or the 8th, yeah. Okay. And the, tomorrow, the Natalie, our fearless leader, Diane Banta from the National Park Service, decided to cancel our Natalie Creek meeting at 10 o'clock because we are all feverishly working on the Invest in Cook application for the Natalie Creek Trail, which is due March 16th. So we are not going to meet tomorrow, but continue our work on putting the application together, which brings me to the next question. We have to provide the audit with this as well. So do you have anybody, Carl or Maggie, an update on the audit?
I have the draft of the 2015, and the final is they are waiting for two very, very, very minor items. One about our insurance. You said that you could not use a draft, right?
I don't, well, you know, when I submit these, they're gonna want the audit. And the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is still waiting, that's the $150,000 one, they're still waiting for the final audit. And they reached out to me again last week. So I keep telling them it should be any day, but we don't have a date certain yet.
I have the draft of the 2015, they started doing prelim field work on the 2016, we don't have examples.
Okay, do you think we'll have it by March 16th when the Invest in Cook is due?
2015,
15.
oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, then that can go to Washington DC too for the other one. Okay. And then we will, tomorrow at noon, we will kick off our Rain Ready Steering Committee meeting. And the beginning of that agenda will be the Keep America Beautiful, Keep Midlothian Beautiful portion. So I think a number of you will be in attendance. And that is all I have this evening.
Thank you. Trustee Ivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll reserve all my updates for the committee meeting, and so I have nothing to add today.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Gillis.
I also have nothing this evening.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Cabinet.
I just wanted to bring up the Verizon and the American Tower contracts. I know I sent them to you guys yesterday, not expecting you to read them in full today. I just wanted you to be aware of the issues on the Verizon. I'm just going to refer to my email I sent you real quick. the two concerns I have with the document as it is right now would be, one is in section 8. The agreement was originally set up, the agreement between the parties was that they were going to put 3 sites on the water tower that would have 3 antennas each for a total of 9 antennas. So section 8, they want the language to read that Verizon has the right to come in any time and add more antennas as well as change any of their base equipment. If they need to change and update their base equipment, that's fine, but if they add more antenna, that's going to improve their coverage. And in my mind, then if they add more antennas, then they should pay more rent. So that is one of the issues. The other issue, that's the more major issue, is in section 14. So if you guys could read just those sections of the contract, and they're redlined, so you can see that language that I deleted or the language that has been stricken and added back in, and also there's a comment from the Verizon rep in the margin that you could read. The biggest issue is FCC compliance. They're insisting that the village maintain the tower and be in compliance with FCC going forward. The issue I have is that, you know, this is a 25-year lease or a 30-year, well, I think it's a 30-year lease, actually. We're all going to be long gone. I have an issue with committing the village to this language because if the FCC changes its rules with regards to painting, markings, such as the American flag or lighting, it's going to expose the village to some pretty hefty expenses in order to be compliant with the FCC. And my opinion is that this water tower was put up for the benefit of the Midlothian residents, not for the benefit of Verizon. So if they want to be on our water tower badly enough, if there is some big issue down the road that's going to cause any party to incur an expense to change lighting or paint color or whatever, I don't want to have to commit the village to that. Because we already know in 10 or 20 years when the water tower has to be repainted, it's going to be like $1 million, right? Isn't that how much it costs to paint the water tower? Yeah. So that's my big concern with that FCC language. You know, if there's other FCC regulations that we have to be cognizant of, that's fine, but, you know, the village is not in the business of having to worry about FCC regulations. We have a lot of other regulations and things we need to worry about, not the FCC. So I don't feel comfortable with the way that language is drafted. It's putting the onus on the village and no responsibility on Verizon. So those are the two big things that I wanted you to be aware of with regards to Verizon. With regards to American Tower, I read Steel in the Air's report. Those reports are pretty boring. It's 26 pages long. But the long and short of it is, if you get to the very last page, bottom of page 23, basically Steel in the Air is suggesting that unless American Tower agrees to change some of the business terms of the current lease, there's really no reason for the village to enter into an amendment with them right now. The only reason why they came to the village to enter into this amendment was to extend its term, was to lock its term down so that as they're trying to market that monopole, they can get more users. Right now, Sprint is the only user on that pole. So it's to their advantage. For their marketing purposes, it's better for them to have a longer term on that ground lease, which is fine, but according to the information that was in the Steel in the Air report, they are recommending that if we were going to extend their lease, they want to add another 35 years onto the term. And right now, the term doesn't expire until like 2030. So we would be extending the term to 2065. I'll be 106.
A spry.
A spry 106. So, again, I have concerns about, you know, entering into a contract for that long for the village when none of us are going to be here down the road. Want to make sure that if we do it, that we get the best deal possible for the village. So if you could take a look at, skip forward and read pages 23 and 24 of that report. Feel free to read the whole thing if you like, but 23 and 24 are basically the most, you know, it has the crux of the information. And then I'll add this to my agenda for next week so we can discuss it in more detail. And Superintendent DeSimone, when we get down to department heads, if you would give everybody an update with regards to
Yes, ma'am.
Blueberry Hill and shares. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Killy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing that sort of just came up at the last minute in that, from what I understand, I think I understand it, that the county is floating the idea and proposing it, and it's in the Finance Committee right now, that if Class 8 is granted, that any work that has to be done on the property has to be done at prevailing wage. So, I'm a little nebulous about this idea, and I don't know the ins and outs about it, but I know that Reggie Greenwood from SSMMA is, and a lot of the South Suburban municipalities are sort of upset about this, and they're having it's in the finance meeting in the Cook County. It's going to happen March 1st, but they're having, tomorrow they're having an emergency meeting for South Suburban Development Corporation and to try to plan strategy, and I'm not sure if the board agrees or doesn't agree with this, but I think it would behoove us to have a representative from Midlothian to figure out what this is all about, and then come back with some facts and about the possible proposal and some actions that we may want to take.
Yes, it's more than just prevailing wage. They also are asking that the employees that they hire to do the work would have to go through, it's something along the lines of an apprenticeship program. It's very restrictive to small business, and the South Suburban mayors and managers are against it and are looking to show up at the county meeting to voice their opinions. So, yeah, I mean, if someone wants to show up there, was it 5 o'clock tomorrow or something?
5 o'clock to 6 o'clock they have it, Mayor. Can you make it?
I will be in Bolingbrook.
Okay.
Sorry, I cannot make it, but if anyone else can make it, this has been going on for a while. Cook County keeps trying to amend their tax incentive ordinances, and this one is going to include all of them, including the Class H, which is the ones that we typically give out. So it will have an impact, not just on new Class 8s, but current Class 8s. Right. Yeah.
So, did I hear you right in that Cook County has now amended its prevailing
It's
wage
proposing.
requirement?
They were reporting, they were trying to, and it's in, as Trustee Kelly said, it's in their finance committee, calendar, one of our
Right.
committee meetings, and it'll eventually come to the board.
But
Full board.
they're trying to revise it so that the prevailing wage would only be on jobs that require training and internships, not on all jobs?
Any work done on a property that has a Class 8 or is going to get a Class 8 would require the contractors to pay prevailing wage, which I have no problem with. I think prevailing wage is a good thing, but it also, there's more stipulations to it than just prevailing wage.
Is there a difference between prevailing wage versus minimum wage?
Yes.
Oh, prevailing wage is more like union wage.
Yes.
Correct. Close to union wages.
So prevailing wage is less than union wage?
No,
It is union wage. It really is union
It's
wage.
not, probably not as much as quite as high as union wages, but it's close.
Very close.
Prevailing wages of the area, it's a county to.
I was thinking, because in my mind, I'm thinking prevailing wage is higher than minimum wage. Did I say
Yeah,
minimum?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did I say minimum wage or union
You
wage?
said both.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to get a handle on, prevailing wage is not minimum wage. It's-
Correct.
Okay,
Or comparable.
It's more close to it.
okay, okay.
Which again, I don't have a problem with, but it's the other tacits of it that requiring the business owner to go out and find people in, again, it's something along the lines of apprenticeship program, so it makes it very cumbersome for small businesses, which we have quite a few.
Right.
So, I support South Suburban mayors and managers. They're doing a lot of work there, and they're doing the best they can to protect all the municipalities in the South Suburban area, so. But again, unfortunately, I'll be out in Bolingbrook tomorrow evening. So anyways, 5 to 6 p.m., it's at the South Suburban Mayors and Managers headquarters in 176th, I believe. I don't know the exact address off the top of my head. It's East Hazelcrest, right, Karen? You're there quite a bit.
Right.
East Hazelcrest. So anybody can make it, it'd be great to show up there and see what's going on. And as Karen always says, you know, see more representation from the Village of Midlothian, and they like that.
And just one last thing, I know the board and the mayor was extremely happy with the job that Public Works did during the snow emergencies that we had recently, and actually all the snow plowing we've had during the winter season. That was excellent job, and those streets were super. I mean, they were in a great condition this year, and I mean, I know that you got a couple emails from some of the board, but I think, you know, all the board wants to say, hey, great job, and we're very appreciative of the hard work and all the long hours that you put in. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Crowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. We do have an update. We have a tentative schedule for delivering the new copiers to the different departments. I'll be sending that out tomorrow as soon as they confirm the times. And I would be looking to make a motion to approve the training for Detective Hazelton to the sex crimes investigation class, May 5th through May 9th for $695.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaveny.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killy.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to department heads, Chief Hot Wagner.
The other thing I just want to thank, I know it was a video, thank the residents and visitors who cleared up fire hydrants. We got a lot of them done. Guys went out for 2 days straight to live, too. Not as much as Public Works did, but you know, we got the hydrants done, cleared out, so I want to thank everyone who helped out with that. Any little bit helped. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Chief Delaney. Superintendent DeSimone.
The two updates that we discussed, Blueberry Hill still has not permitted their water tap. Plans have been reviewed for the suppression system inside the building, and they're ready to go to permit. Could be a weather thing, obviously, but I am in communication with them on a daily basis.
I did talk to the plumber, and he kind of told me, he says, yeah, it's because it's weather, and I said, hey, they're waiting on you.
Absolutely.
He said, I think time is of the essence and what he's done.
And I did light a fire under both of them by saying that they weren't aware when they went to contract with the customer, the owner of Blueberry Hills, of what the time constraints for the village were. So when I first did that last week, mid of last week, I had plans in and approved within the week. So we were putting pressure on the outside plumbing work right now for the tap on Keystone. As far as Cheers goes, Cheers went in negotiation on Monday of this week with the owner of the property to supplement the additional cost just to bring that system to 100% compliance. I've gotten quotes from 2 different companies. They are less than $1,500. So the negotiation is going back and forth between the tenants and the property owner, who we all know who the property owner is, to get that done. So hopefully I'll have an answer on that this week, by the end of this week. That's all I have, Mayor.
There was an issue again with some property. Landlord wasn't plowing snow. Were you made aware of all that?
Yes, sir. Citations were issued today.
Thank you. Superintendent Sperry.
Yes, we had our pre-bid inspection meeting today at the 3 Million Gallon Reservoir. We have 4 different contractors attending, so that's good. We'll open the bids for the project next week, February 21st at 10 a.m. right here in the council chambers. And hopefully shortly after that, we'll have a recommendation for the board as to who to go with. Secondly, I'd like to thank Chief Delaney and his department for enforcing the 2-inch snow parking ban. I've never seen that many tickets written. Everybody wants to snow, but they all want to put their car out on the street at the same time and block their driveways. And it's a never-ending battle with people, including my own family. Saturday night, it was ridiculous. You know, punch the snow blowers to the sides, you know, get your snow off the street. That's all I got.
And it was brought to my attention that there's a new blade that has a side blade that comes down when you pass through.
That's on
A great
a
road
grader.
there.
Yeah, we used to have one of them.
Really?
33 years ago, we got rid of it when I first started. I want to buy another one. It takes forever to plow the streets. We still be plowing right now.
As I told some of the people that were brought that to my attention, the snow plow, since they're pushing snow, requires speed and momentum, and it would be really tough to properly and safely clear the streets with having to slow down every time to put
Let's
that.
see what
blade
happens
down.
when the rain starts tomorrow. And the drains are all clogged. It's gonna be another mess, so that's why.
You're a ray of
it's the importance
sunshine.
of us.
That's it? Thank you, Superintendent Sperry. Engineer Nagel.
Mayor, I got two items, and they both involve the MWR. On Monday, I want to update the board that the mayor had a meeting with David St. Pierre, the executive director of MWRD, to have a conversation about the status of the Naily Creek job. Mostly what's the concerns with when it's going to go forward. We know that there's an easement issue, we also know that easements are coming in now. Mr. St. Pierre talked to the mayor, and assured him the project's going to go forward. And the village also has to approve an IGA with MWRD. And there's some wording in there, the mayor discussed with David St. Pierre, and they're working on that now. But it looked really, really positive. Okay, so at the meeting, we also dovetail to get his recommendations on the 4 grant applications we're doing with MWRD. We have 4 grant applications. They're due on February 23rd. I'm about 90% done. And with discussing with David St. Pierre, he wanted us to put it in as one package with 4 different phases. So if you recall what it was about, we were going to do Jolly Homes, construction for Jolly Homes. We're going to do Bremen Heights stormwater study, and also Belly Button Hill stormwater study, and the Lomar for the Midlow Creek. Okay. With that, in discussion with Mr. St. Pierre, he said it wouldn't be a good idea to go for the construction for Jolly Homes, because right now the village has about an $8 million grant coming from MWRD, and asking for $4.5 million, it wouldn't be appropriate. So he wanted us to go with the design of the work, because the design will take about a year. And then for next season, next February, we go for the construction. He also said that by phasing the work, it kind of helps the MWRD. If they funded phase 1, good chance they may fund phase 2. There's no guarantee of it. Okay. So with that, we amended the approach. And the approach is that we want to do the Jolly Homes design work. It's a $4.1 million job, and the design piece approximately $315,000. So we're asking for that. Belly Button drainage study is about $30,000. Bremen Heights drainage study is about $30,000. And the Lomar for Midlothian Creek is about $100,000. So with that, we're asking for all that. So a couple of things I need the board to advise me how to approach is what order do we want to put it in? What's priority 1, which we call phase 1, priority 4. And the other option, we got about what is going to be our match. Mr. St. Pierre said, informally in the meeting, about a 50% match. I haven't seen that from any MWR grant, and any MWRD grant ever. And so what I set up the applications for is somewhere around a 33% match, including the money you already spent. So with that, I can just go over. So for example, on Jolly Homes, the total cost is $315,000. I'm assuming you already spent about $50,000. So we did the study for about $23,000, and also all the emergency response you done out there. If you do a match of $50,000 on that, it'll put your match about 31%. Okay? And this is also a thing, you can worry about this if you get the grant. If you don't get the grant, you don't got to worry about it. But we got to put something in the grant, what the match is going to be. And so that way it shows that the village is putting 31% of the project cost up. On Belly Button Hills, I think you already spent about $5,000. Your match could be $5,000 on that, so your match should be about 33% on that. And also on Bremen Heights, it'll be the same thing, about 33%. And on Midlow, I don't know how much you spent in the Midlow Creek Lomar so far. I don't think you spent a lot, so I had like $3,000 already being spent on it. I'm saying that you could put $20,000 on it for a total of 23, and your percentage of that would be 23%. Okay. I don't know how you want to handle it.
Can I just add something?
Sure.
I think we asked, and I gotta find the letter, we asked them to do the Lomar in 2015, and they said no.
In the conversation with Mr. St. Pierre, we discussed the project, and it sounded very, very positive, Mr. Christ. I mean, the gentleman has so many nice things to say about you and the Rainbrain people and the mayor. It was just a
collaborative effort where he wants to look at the village as the big picture. His comment to us, I don't want to just dig holes out there and put retention ponds in. I want to help out the community. And that's why we're taking this four-phase approach. And if you go to the second to the last page, you kind of see where the projects lay out on it. And then it shows where all the areas that you're concerned with. And the last page shows also the work that MWRD is doing with this. So if you can envision this, best case scenario, you get all these grants, you'll now have every stormwater management issue identified and cost estimated for you. And that way you can prioritize the work in your village. Right now, you do not have that. Okay, what you have, you've got prioritization on Jolly Homes. You don't have it for Bremen Heights, you don't have it for Belly Button Hill. And I think this is just a good example of proper planning and the kind of stuff that Mr. David St. Pierre wants to see. And Mayor, if you could chime in on some of the comments he was telling us, that'd be great too.
Well, I first want to say that Mr. St. Pierre was very gracious in giving a few hours of his time after hours, a one-on-one conversation about this. A number of the board members know David St. Pierre, and I know Helen and the Midlothian group know him quite well. But to have that intimate one-on-one conversation was very, I think it was uplifting from my standpoint. What he called it was outcome engineering. As you said, he doesn't want to just dig holes anymore. They want to plan projects that create a myriad of successes in the community. They've done one for Robbins, and they're doing one for Fort Heights, and he even offered to attend a soon upcoming board meeting or even a town hall meeting to discuss those projects and then how that he could develop a project that would work for Midlothian as well. So the Lomar was part of that outcome engineering because of the economic ramifications of our downtown area, and we're having trouble with development there because of the Lomar and other things. So yeah, it was his outcome engineering was a good term. He had a lot of other ideas besides all this stuff, but it was a very, very nice conversation, and they're really putting a large emphasis on the south suburban area, and that really, really made me happy to hear.
So one of the things he told us is we did not know, they have $100 million a year to spend. They have 125 communities that are tributary to the MWRD, and they're looking for jobs. I talked to Cedric Robertson about the approach that David St. Pierre told us. He's also with the MWRD. He says, send it in. The more projects, the better. They want to get everything up on a board and prioritize it and see what they can afford. But having the personal ear of the executive director of MWRD, like the way the mayor did, discuss the approach. The approach we had was big picture. I mean, trying to get as much money as we possibly can for their projects. And he explained us about the politics behind giving too much money in one time. So we had amended it to the way he wanted it. So I think it's positive. But right now, I mean, if everybody's in agreement with the approach that we got, I need the priority list of what do you want to go first? Because if they can only afford, say, priority 1, 2, or maybe 1, 2, and 3, who knows, but we should put that in there. And we also should say, is the match acceptable?
I think during the conversation, he agreed it should be one project but 4 phases, and I think he probably hit in my opinion, I think you hit the 1, 2, and 3, 4 correctly. That's my opinion.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? So, for the how is the MWRD grant going to be, application going to be different than the Cook County grant application?
That's a great
So,
question.
maybe we need to understand that Cook County grant before we apply the priority on the MWRD grant. Because if the Cook County grant, if I'm remembering this correctly, isn't the Cook County grant more for construction? Can we use that for the construction of the Jolly Homes? Or no, do I have it mixed up?
It can be used for design.
Wait,
It's for design only.
oh, it's design only.
It's design only. And they want it's going to be applying to the storm in 2013, April and May.
Okay.
And we're going to be applying for design grant fees on all 3 projects besides the Lomar. Because the Lomar is not associated with the design storm in 2013.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do. So that's another point. We could use that as a match. This was something that David St. Pierre said to us. If we get that grant, we use a match. And in the grant application, we even identified that we're in the process of applying for that. So when we're done with this will be done on February 23rd, we're going to have another package in a day or so, going right out to the county and hopefully get that approved. And we'll see where it goes. But I know that in talking to Mr. St. Pierre, his whole concept is to bring other departments in, bring the county in with the MWRE to help the village out. So I think that's a positive thing to hear from him, a positive thing to say to us too.
And he invited us downtown to meet with his group, his team, as he called it. And
Right.
that's just, it was a very, very positive meeting, and I couldn't thank him enough for the time that he gave to us.
So to answer your question, we are submitting for the CDBG DR grant. This stands for Community Development Block Disaster Recovery Grant.
Okay,
So you hear that expression, that's what the acronym is for.
right. And that, so the Cook County grant, again, is for engineering?
Engineering only associated with the storm of 2013.
Okay,
And of course, because the rain already was so kind, Helen and her mother brought pictures to us. We now have photos of the storm of 2013, which we can put in documentation in, which is really helpful. One thing we do need, though, we need photos of Bremen Heights. Helen says that she's got some videos that maybe they could share with us. We can do some screen captures on it and put that in there, but they're going to want to see that kind of documentation. And the photos we got tonight were excellent.
You know, can I just
Sure.
add one thing? I know there's a scientific reason, but most storms happen at night. It is very difficult to photograph in the dark. Only twice has it ever happened where you know, you could actually photograph it because it was light out, but most of the time this comes in pitch of blackness. So I don't know what they expect you to do, because we don't have the professional
Yeah.
equipment.
I look at it this way, it's more like a marketing campaign right now. We want them to pick us over towns around us. And so by the more easy to read evidence that shows there's a disaster going on, the better off we are on it. And so, but the photos you provided were excellent. And if we could get some screenshots, that'd be great too. But that's the only thing I'm lacking on the grant applications, the photos of Bremen Heights.
Sounds, the document you provided sounds quite clear on the priorities, I think. I mean, these are the four major areas that we want to address, or have always wanted to address in however long, 91 years that Midlothian's been around. So I don't see a need to change any of the priorities. These seem to be ideal. I mean, we're,
What he's saying is to put those four in order.
yeah,
That's, I agree with the order it's in now.
that's what I'm trying to say.
There is an order in the rain-ready plan that you guys voted on. There is an order. So if we voted to do it in that order, I think we need to stay in that order. They prioritized on, I believe it was the number of homes and the volume of water, and that was already done, it's in the plan. So since we adopted the plan, we follow the plan.
I believe this is the order. If you, number one,
Right.
And
It's got,
then I thought it was LA button, and then I believe it was Rose, I already have.
that- then you did.
yeah,
So that's the order it's in.
yeah.
But it's all one project, it's just phased project.
Right. But in reality, they're going to break it up. But the whole idea is to put the outcome in the engineering outlook on this for the, like, big picture improvement for the village, not a small section down home, so that's what we're hoping for. And that's what they asked for. So I think that's good. We got some insight into the information from them. It's very polite and gracious and open with us too. So.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, so the matches, we're okay with that? I mean, we cross that bridge if we get the grant.
Sure.
And then, and it's not 50%, it's around 33%, I think that's more than fair, so. And we're also accounting for money you spent earlier, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Britton,
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Clerk Kalaki,
I have nothing.
Attorney Valdez.
If the board wants to add update on litigation to today's closed session, then there won't be any need to do it at the next board meeting, and we can have an economy of time. That's all I have.
Is it going to get us home in time to see the hockey game?
Yes, yes.
No.
This will only avoid having to do it next week.
Okay. Moving on to my business, I have some Updates, MWRD introduces its new consumer guide to help reduce water contamination. I have a couple brochures here that we'll make available in our front office, and hopefully we can get their website and stuff on our village website so people can find out how to reduce water contamination. Stag High School Music Boosters is pleased to announce their Arts and Crafts Festivals, March 17th and March 18th, 9 to 4 and 10 to 3. I'm assuming it is at Stag High School, so if anyone's interested, it's $2 to get in. Let's see, Highboot, publisher of Yellow Book. They will be mailing out their upcoming Yellow Book phone book delivery. They'll be mailing, that don't make no sense. Upcoming Yellow Book phone book delivery in the southwest suburbs. Midlothian will see an increase in phone books on the curbside and drop point recycling centers. As you may already know, the Yellow Book is 100% recyclable. I just want to provide the city with the advance notice of the deliveries and also contact information in case the city of you or your residents have any questions. So I have that here. Let's see, Comcast, beginning April 10th, 2018, Great American Country, channel 484, will migrate from digital starter to the digital preferred package. I feel like I should read that stuff. Catholic Charities is having their 20th annual Helping Hands Dinner and auction at the Silver Lake Country Club in Orland Park on Saturday, March 3rd. I have all the information here for that. And I spoke to Dominic, Director of the Park District, about the report and told him that he thought that he could absolutely do it quarterly. I also spoke to Ernie from Republic, and they do offer a electronic recycling at curbside at a cost, and he was going on vacation, and he will provide me with a report as soon as he gets back from vacation. And I, as well, I would like to tag on to Ms. Sarney and everyone else that talked very highly about the Public Works Department. They did an outstanding job in a very taxing and trying situation, but I'd also like to thank the other departments as well for, again, working in such a professional manner, in such trying conditions. Yes, I understand it's Chicago and it snows every winter, but it was a tough weekend, and I saw departments helping out other departments, and it was a proud moment to see. So thank you all for everything you do. And Clerk Musco.
I have nothing tonight, sir.
Okay. At this time, I will be looking for a motion to go to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body. Hey, do I have to read the whole thing?
No, including.
And also update on litigation pending.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Roll call.
Yeah. Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Kami.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
There will be no further business after closed session. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week.
Yes, was that at 5 o'clock? Oh, both.
Yeah.
I would throw the book at them.
Yeah, there's like 2:30.
Both.